Good morning, class 6. Today we will start first lesson of your IT subjects. So here we have computer languages. Now, in order for us to communicate with the computer, we need uh, languages, computer languages. Okay, so there are many languages we'll be learning in this lesson. So let's see the introduction now. In our daily day-to-day life, we communicate with each other for various purposes through various modes of communications. Have you ever thought what the essential requirement of a good communication is? Yes, we need a language to communicate with others. A computer language is a method of electronic communications or communicating with the computer. Computer also have their own language which help us to communicate with computer. A computer understands binary numbers or machine language which represent the most fundamentals level of information stored in a computer. All digital data used in computer system is represented using zeros and ones, a dual symbols made of communication. Through generations of computers, several programming languages have evolved. So here, in order to communicate with a computer, we need a certain kind of language or code. Here they have given here zeros and ones. So in computers we use binary digits, okay, that is 0 and 1s to communicate with the computer. So by combining these 0 and 1s, we can make an instruction for the computer, so that when we give instruction, the computer will obey us. Okay, so let's see the next paragraph, description of computer languages. So let's see the different kind of languages, computer languages, on the next page. Okay, so here let's start from here. When we want to give instruction to the computer to communicate with the computer, the system must be able to understand the language that we are using to communicate. Specified languages are being used to use such that languages are easily understood by the computer. These languages are classified and categorized into different levels. So computers languages include various methods which are used to communicate with a machine. Some languages called programming languages consist of a set of codes and instructions through which a request is made to the system to process a task. Machine code or binary code is the basic kind of computer language that can also be used for programming. Markup languages used for structuring, identification, and presentation of raw text such as HTML make up another category of language belonging to web languages and another programming language. So we need a language to communicate with the computer. So what is the programming language? That is called the programming languages. Okay, so there are lots of programming languages we'll be learning in this lesson. So here they have given HTML. Why they have given an HTML? This is also used for to design a website and all. Okay, HTML, but it's not a programming languages. It is just a markup language. Markup language means to make a website we need this HTML. And languages, computer languages that we will be learning are different kind of languages are there, for such as low level language and higher level language. Okay, so let's see the classification of computer languages here. There are different types are there over the years. Here they have given low level language, middle level language, and high level language. So binary numbers are low level, that is 0 and 1, and middle level language means assembly language. Okay, high level language, the examples here: COBOL, Fortran, BASIC, C, C++, Java. So these are the three types of computer languages that we have here, and we'll be studying them one by one. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Okay, next page we have types of computer languages. Low level language. Okay, low level language are binary digits in which machines code instructions are given in the form of 0 and 1. They are mainly designed to operate and handle order instruction set architecture of a computer system. The main function of low level language is to operate, manage, and manipulate system hardware and components of a system. There are several programs and applications written in low-level languages which are directly executable without any interpretation and translation. Assembler is an example of low-level language. Okay, so here in low-level language we just use this 0 and 1. Okay, so this 0 and 1, you see the combination of this 0 and 1, by combining these two they have formed the low-level language. So in low-level language it can be directly executed without any translation or interpreter. Okay, so one of the advantages that it can be directly execute without the use of interpreter or translation. So there are two types of low-level languages, that is machine language and assembly language. Okay, assembly language is also called the middle level language. So let's see the machine language here. Machine language is the first generation computer which is developed for communicating with a computer. It is one of the low-level languages. Machine languages are written in machine codes as the binary digits 0 and 1, which the computer can understand and use to make the system perform its operation. So machine language is it uses the 0 and 1. Okay, so it's a very simple language, and we can say like here they have given here 0 means off and 1 means on. So since the computers are run by electronic components, we have to use these two 0 and 1 in order to control the flow of electric pulse. Okay, so 0 means we off the electric pulse, and 1 means we on the electric pulse. So by using this 0 and 1 we can simply control the flow of electric pulse, and in this way we can control the computer. So here we have the advantages of the machine language here. One of the main advantage of machine language is that it doesn't require, so earlier I have said that it doesn't require interpreter or translator for executing the program. Okay, second is computer can easily understand low level language. Since it is 0 and 1, the computer we can easily control the flow of electric pulse by using the 1 and 0. So here third one, low level language requires less time for execution of programs. Since the programming languages is very simple, like 0, we just have to use 0 and 1, it takes very less time to execute the program. Okay, so these are the advantages of using this machine language. Let's go to the next page now. Okay, next page we have disadvantages of low level language. Okay, low level language instruction are machine language, which means that the codes or program written on one machine may not be supported by another machine. So since it's a simple language using 0 and 1, it may work in one machine, but it may not work in another machine, because during those times, since the programming languages are very simple, it may not work in all the machines. Okay, so this is one of the disadvantages here. So here 2 is it is difficult to find and debug the system. So if the finding of errors are low, so if there is a mistake or errors, then it's very difficult to find and correct the mistakes. At a certain point of time, it is difficult to understand and use this language as it is not portable. So during those days, since it's not portable, means those machines, computers the size of that, those are quite a very big size. Okay, the machines are very 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 much big. It's not the size of the computers that we are using nowadays, but it's a very big size. It's not portable, so it's very difficult to move around and the machine to take from one place to another. So it is difficult to understand and use these languages by everyone. So that is the disadvantage here. So assembly language is the second generation programming language which has similar set of commands and instructions like those present in the machine language. Assembly language is designed to perform the operation with the help of words or names as in English. It has commands in the form of special symbols instead of numbers as in machine language. Here we use a new features called assembler, which is used to convert programs into machine language using names, words names and special symbols. So here in assembly language is also a low level language, but there is a slight difference between the machine language and assembly language. Here in the assembly language we use a new features that is called assembler. Okay, it's in assembly language we not only use 0 and 1, but here we are able to use numbers, names and special symbols. Special symbols here means like hashtag and dollar sign, comma, semicolon. We use these things and we convert it and we assemble it and convert it into machine language in order for the machine to understand. Okay, so here since the computer understands only machine language, we use the assembler so that it can convert assembly language program codes into machine language, and it makes the computer perform and respond quickly. Mnemonics, a memory tricks is used in the assembly language. So here the name MNE mnemonics, a memory trick. Mnemonic system is used. This is a new tricks that we use in the assembly language. So there's a difference between the machine language and the assembly language here, even if they are both low level languages. Okay, so let's go to the next page now. Okay, here we have the advantage and disadvantage of using the assembly language. Advantages is easy to understand and modify errors. If there is mistake and all, we can modify it. And number two advantage is that instruction written in the middle level language are easier than instruction written in low level. So here in assembly it's a upgraded version of the machine language. So whatever language that we write in the assembly, it is easier to understand. Okay, compare with the machine language. So number three here, as instructions are written in simple English, words and symbol, it is much easier. So in assembly it's not written in 0 and 1, but it is written in English words and symbols. Since we use English words, it is easier to understand. If it's written in 0 and 1, it's very difficult to find out what we are trying to write. But if you write in English, since we are writing in English, it's easier to understand the language. These languages are hardware oriented. So here these languages are hardware oriented, means these languages are suitable for the hardware to communicate and to perform well with the hardware. So since it is easier to understand in English, it's written in English, and these languages are hardware. So since it is suitable with the hardware, it's easier to use these languages. Okay, so disadvantage, here we have disadvantage. One of the disadvantage of this language is the instruction can be written only in the, so here now even if we can write in an easier way, but suppose like if you have written the assembly language in one machine, in one CPU or one computer, it may not work in another computer. Okay, because during those time the machines are different kind of machines are made, so it may work in one machine but it may not work in different machines. This one of the disadvantages that, and assembly language or middle level language need to be translated into machine language so that the machine understands. So one thing is that the second point here is that it has to be always translated into machine language. Since we are using English words and symbols, this needs has to be converted into 0 and 1 for the machine to understand. So every time that we make a assembly language programming languages, we need to convert it or translate it. Okay, and number three, middle level languages are machine dependent. So it is machine dependent. And four, these languages are complex in nature as it takes a lot of time to code and write a program. So these assembly language are very much complex, and since we are using English and different kind of symbols like colons, semicolons, comma and all, it's very complex. So if you don't know properly the languages and all, there are chances that we may make a lots of mistakes. Okay, so here we'll go to next to the high level languages. Here, high level languages, these high level languages are the most used and considered the most suitable languages. High-level languages are less dependent on a computer. They require a translator to convert it into machine language. The translator is nothing but an interpreter and a compiler, which can convert the high-level language into binary. So here some of the example of high-level. So nowadays the computers that we use nowadays, these are the high-level languages. Okay, so example that we can give is that C, Pascal, C++, Fortran. C++ is here, and basic also, beginners all purpose symbolic instruction code. So these are some of the examples of high level. Why it's called high level? Because nowadays the latest computers, the laptops that we are using right now nowadays, these are all run by high level languages. Okay, so these are very high level, and it's very much easier to understand and easier to write the programming languages. So there is a lot of difference between the high level and the low level languages. Let's go to the next page now. Okay, in the next page we have the advantage and disadvantage of high level language. So advantage and disadvantage, you see here, program written using high level are easier to understand. Just like I have told you, it's easier to understand and more readable. And number three, programs which are written using high-level languages try in other languages with few changes or no changes to be made. High-level language do not need to understand internal structure of computers. So here we have high-level languages advantages. So on number three, earlier in low-level languages, uh, it says that if you write the program in one machine, it may not work in another. But in high level languages, if you write in one machine, it will be suitable in all the machines. Okay, with few changes or no changes to be made. So this is one of the main advantages of using the high level languages here. And disadvantage, there are disadvantage also of using the high level language. Execution time is lower compared to low level and middle level languages. Programs need to be converted into machine level so that machine can understand them. High level cannot communicate directly with the hardware. So here, it since we use different kind of languages and symbols, high level, it takes lots of time. Okay, execution time is slower than comparing with the low level. So low level, since they use only 0 and 1, it is much faster, but in high level it is slower. Okay, so high level, in order to use the high level, we need to convert it into machine language again. So conversion also, it takes time. So this is the disadvantage of using the high level. Now let's see about the compiled language. A compiler takes the entire program as an input and generate machine code from the source code. So compile means once you have written the programming language, this compiler will, there is a language called compiler which will help us to compile all the languages and generate and make it into a machine understand language. Okay, machine understand code. So this is what it means here, compile language. And the second one, we have interpreted language. Interpreted function like a spoken language. It translates and executes source code into machine code one line at a time. Error feedback is provided line by line as step by step execution takes place at runtime. So here, interpreter means it interprets all the programming language one line at a time. That means this is slightly slower, because since it converts into one line at a time, it will be slower. Okay, but the execution time, uh, the mistake, if there is any mistake and all, it will point out by the interpreter language. Okay, error feedback is provided line by line. So since it is slow, but at the same time it will be uh, the mistake will be pointed out easily by this interpreted language. And evolution of programming language. So here we have a evolution, just like just like we have nowadays we are using 4G. So before coming 4G, there was a 3G, 2G, and 1G, right? So just as like that, even in the computers we have first generation, or 1GL for generation languages, and second generation languages, and third generation languages. So 1, 2, 3, and next page also we have a fourth generation and fifth generation. So here up to fifth generation, this fifth generation is the latest computer system that we are using. It's a really fast supercomputers that use, so our 5th generation. Okay, so you have to know all the generations of the language. So here you see first generation are low level or machine languages. Here second generations are languages sometimes used in kernel and hardware drivers, but commonly used in video editing and video games. So second generation are this video editing games, are this, all these things are used in second generation. And third generation we use languages like C, C++, Java, Visual Basic. Okay, and here next fourth generation languages. These are the examples of the languages here: Perl, PHP, Python, SQL, Ruby, etc. So these are the languages that we use in the fourth generation. And fifth generation, we use for example, Mercury and OPS5. Okay, so you have to know the different kind of languages according to the generation. So here, in order to understand the different kind of computer languages, you need to know the generations: the first generation, second, third generation, and fourth, fifth generation. Okay, so try to learn the books properly and nicely, and if you have any doubt, you can ask me and I will clarify any doubts and any problem that you have. Okay, so that's all for now. Thank you very much.